It was the kind of night that makes people lock their doors early and pray the power doesn't go out. The kind of night where the Appalachian Mountains don't just feel empty, they feel alive, watching, waiting. And if you had been there that night, driving alone through that endless stretch of Black Forest Road, you would have understood why some locals say that when the storms get bad enough, the dead don't stay quiet. Ethan Parker didn't believe in any of that. Not ghosts, not spirits, not the stories people whispered about the back roads of West Virginia. But as the rain slammed against his windshield so hard it sounded like gravel being thrown at the glass, even he started to feel like something wasn't right. His car crawled forward through what looked less like a road and more like a flooded river, water rushing beneath the tires, the headlights barely cutting through the thick curtain of rain, and for a moment he considered turning back. But there was nowhere to turn, just miles of winding road behind him and more of the same ahead. "Just keep going," he muttered to himself, gripping the wheel tighter, trying to ignore the strange feeling creeping into his chest. The kind of feeling you get when you know you're somewhere you shouldn't be. The forest on both sides stood tall and unmoving, dark shapes stretching endlessly into the night, and the deeper he drove, the more it felt like the world outside his car had disappeared, like he was the only person left alive in that storm. And then suddenly, he saw it, a faint flicker of light in the distance, barely visible through the rain. At first, he thought it was another car, maybe someone else crazy enough to be out here. But as he got closer, the shape became clearer. It wasn't a car, it was a man, standing, middle of nowhere in weather like this. The man didn't move, didn't wave, didn't react. He just stood there, the lantern swaying slightly in his hand. Casting weak light across his soaked coat, Ethan rolled his window down just enough to speak, rain immediately splashing inside. "Hey, you okay?" he called out. But before he could say anything else, the man stepped closer and said in a calm, almost emotionless voice, "The bridge is out." Ethan blinked, confused. "What? Collapse?" The man repeated, his face still mostly hidden beneath the shadow of his hat. "You keep going this way, you won't make it." A pause, the storm roaring around them. Ethan felt something strange in the air. Something off about the way the man spoke. Too calm, too still. Like he wasn't affected by the cold or the rain at all. "Then what do I do?" Ethan asked. The man tilted his head slightly and pointed into the darkness. "There's an old logging road about half a mile back. Leads through Black Hollow. It'll take you around." Ethan frowned. "I didn't see anything like that." The man smiled faintly, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You wouldn't?" Something about that answer made Ethan's chest tighten, but he didn't argue. He didn't want to stay out here any longer than necessary. "Is it safe?" he asked, half joking, trying to ease the tension. The man let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. "Out here? Safe isn't really a thing." Then after a brief pause, he added in a lower voice, "And tonight is a bad night to be on these roads." Ethan forced a smile. "Yeah, I figured." But the man didn't smile back. Instead, he leaned just a little closer to the window and said, "You're not the only one out here tonight." And that's when Ethan felt it, a sharp, cold chill crawl up his spine, the kind that doesn't come from the weather. He didn't respond, didn't know how to respond. So he just nodded, rolled the window up, and drove past him, his heart beating faster than it should. And as he checked the rear-view mirror, he saw the man still standing there, unmoving, lantern glowing faintly in the rain, watching him. until the darkness swallowed him completely. Ethan followed the directions, found the narrow dirt road that shouldn't have been there, but was, barely visible between trees, and turned onto it. The moment his tires left the main road, everything changed. The path was rough, uneven, filled with mud and potholes, branches scraping against the side's car, the forest closing in tighter around him, and then about 10 minutes later, the engine coughed once, twice, and then died completely. No, come on. He tried to restart it, turned the key again and again, but the car only made a weak grinding sound before falling silent. The rain continued pouring down, louder now, almost deafening. Ethan sat there for a moment, staring through the windshield, breathing slowly, trying to think. I think, he whispered, he could stay in the car and wait. But for how long? Out here there was no signal, no traffic, no help. And then he saw it, deep in the trees through the darkness and the rain, a light, faint flickering, coming from somewhere off the road. At first he thought it was just his imagination, but no, it was real, steady, unnatural, like a light coming from a house. His heart started beating faster again. There's no way, he said under his breath, because out here, there shouldn't be any houses, not for miles, and yet there it was, glowing through the trees like something calling him closer. And that's when thought crossed his mind, one that he couldn't ignore. What if that man wasn't warning him? What if he was guiding him? And the real question wasn't how Ethan ended up on that road, but why he was meant to be there in the first place. And without fully realizing it, Ethan opened the car door and stepped out into the storm, heading toward the light, toward the house that should not exist. In the moment he reached that house, everything he believed about reality would start to fall apart. The rain hit him like a wall the second he stepped out of the car, soaking through his jacket in seconds as cold wind cut straight through him. But he didn't stop. His eyes locked on that faint light glowing through the trees like it was the only thing anchoring him to reality. Each step to the mud felt heavier, the ground uneven, slippery, branches snapping under his boots as the forest seemed to close in tighter with every second. And the strange part was, the closer he got to the house, the quieter everything felt, not silent but muted, like the storm itself was being held back, as if something didn't want that noise to interfere with what was about to happen. And then he saw it clearly, the house, sitting alone between the trees, old, two-story, paint peeling, windows dimly lit from the inside. It didn't look abandoned, but it didn't look lived in either, just stuck, like time had stopped around it. Ethan slowed down as he reached the small, muddy yard, noticing something odd right away. There was no proper path leading to the door, no signs of recent movement, just wet earth and scattered leaves. And off to the side, barely visible in the darkness, sat an old sedan, its surface dull and worn, like it had been there for years, or maybe longer. Ethan didn't think too much about it. The cold was biting now, and all he cared about was getting inside. He reached the front door and knocked hard, the sound echoing unnaturally through the quiet house. Once, twice, 3 times, and then suddenly, the door creaked open on its own, slowly, like no one had touched it. Ethan froze for half a second, a strange unease settling in his chest. But before he could step back, a voice came from inside, calm, almost welcoming. "You might as well come in. You're already soaked." Ethan hesitated, then stepped inside, and the moment he crossed the doorway, something felt wrong. The air inside was warmer, but not in a comforting way, more like stale, untouched, like a room that hadn't been opened in years. He found himself standing in a narrow hallway, dimly lit. At the far end, there was a larger room glowing with brighter light, but what caught his attention immediately was a man and a woman standing close, together in the hallway, almost too close, like they were trying to block something behind them, both dressed neatly, strangely formal for middle of the night. The man looked to be in his early 40s, sharp features, calm expression, while the woman stood beside him, younger, pale, her eyes fixed on Ethan in a way that made him feel examined, like she was trying to understand something about him without speaking. "My car broke down," Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I saw the light. I was hoping you might have a phone." The man nodded slowly. "Of course, you can try." There was a slight pause before he added, "Though I wouldn't count on it working tonight." Something about that answer felt off, but Ethan ignored it, stepping further inside, his eyes scanning the room beyond the hallway. It looked like a normal living room, old furniture, a couch, a bookshelf, a small table in the corner where an old telephone sat. Everything looked outdated, like it hadn't changed in decades, but still clean, still arranged perfectly. "Go ahead," the woman said softly, gesturing toward the phone, her voice calm, almost too calm. Ethan walked over, picked up the receiver and dialed. Nothing, no dialed tone, just silence. He tried again, pressing harder this time, dialing faster, but it was dead, completely dead. He let out a breath and turned back toward them. "Lines out, probably the storm." The man gave a small nod. "Or maybe something else." Ethan frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" The man and woman exchanged a quick glance, something unspoken passing between them, before the woman spoke again. "Tell me, did you see anyone on the road before coming here?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, a guy with a lantern. He told me to take this road." The first time, something changed in their expressions. Not fear, not surprise, something deeper, something like recognition. "Of course he did." The man murmured quietly, almost himself. Ethan felt that unease again. Stronger now. "Look, I don't mean to intrude. I just need to wait out the storm. Maybe figure out what to do about my car." The man stepped slightly closer, his eyes fixed on Ethan. "You can stay here for a while, but not too long." Ethan blinked. "Not too long?" The woman spoke this time, her voice still soft but carrying a strange weight. "Wouldn't be good for you." A silence filled the room, thick, uncomfortable. Ethan forced a small laugh. "What, is this place haunted or something?" He meant as a joke. But neither of them laughed. Instead, the man looked at him directly and said, "What if it is?" Ethan's smile faded, the air in the room suddenly feeling heavier, harder to breathe. "Okay, what's going on?" he asked, more serious now. The man took a slow breath, then said something that made Ethan's stomach drop. "Everything you're seeing right now, this house, this room, even us, isn't real." Ethan stared at him, waiting for the punchline, but it never came. The woman added quietly, "You're not supposed to be here tonight." A cold wave ran through Ethan's body, his mind racing, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. "Yeah, okay. I think I should just go," he said, turning slightly toward the door. But before he could take a step, the man's voice stopped him, calm but firm. "If you leave right now, you might not make it back to your car." Ethan froze, his heartbeat picking up again. "What does that supposed to mean?" The man stepped closer, just enough that Ethan could see his face more clearly now. And that's when he noticed it. Something wasn't right. Not his expression, not his eyes, but something deeper, something that didn't belong to the living. "It means," the man said slowly, "you walked into something tonight that you don't understand yet. And if you don't listen carefully, you might not walk out at all." The room fell silent again, the storm outside suddenly sounding distant, like it existed in another world. And for the first time since entering the house, Ethan realized something terrifying. The front door behind him, the one he had just walked through, was now completely gone, and that's when the woman whispered, almost gently, "Now you have to hear our story."